up and on. Is that everyone that's going to speak today, Amanda? I got Alexis, Kyle, and Margot, and we'll get to them in a second. But is that everyone that's in the waiting room?
That is correct.
Great.
And they're on the line with us actually right now. I couldn't admit Rick and Peter without them being admitted as well.
No worries. Let's just get through our quick administrative stuff, and then we'll go into the delegations in a second. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the agenda as revised?
I'll move.
Thank you, Michael. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Any adjustments to the agenda? Any issues, changes?
Yes, Chair.
Okay.
It's Councilor Rick Kerr speaking. We have a number of delegation requests, and as for the City Clerk direction on procedure, as they were not specific to any agenda item, I would like to move a motion to waive the rules, the procedural bylaw rules, to introduce these delegations, which are to do with the agenda item about which we're meeting today, which is the BIA levy and outcome from the council decision. And that requires a 2/3 majority to pass.
Okay, so to allow them on the agenda, we just, you're moving that basically we adjust the agenda to allow them to speak on the agenda for today.
No, I'm saying we waive the rules of procedure in this instance to allow the delegations to be placed on the agenda. That's a little more specific.
Okay, great. I'm okay with that. So you move it. Do I have a seconder for that?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. Let's go. Any other changes or any other concerns?
I have one quick question. Do we know for sure that the delegations are specific to today's agenda? Because we have a board meeting in a week and a half. I'm not wondering if that would be a better platform.
So I think that that's what the intent is. If the delegation comes on and that actually is not their intent, then we would move to advise them to present at the BIA meeting in a couple of weeks. So I'm just doing this so that all the people who said they want to delegate today have at least the opportunity to state that with clarity.
Okay. Cindy, is that okay?
Thank you for clarifying.
Okay, so they're going to speak on the topic of the BIA discussion and budget direction. Any other changes? Okay, if I can go around the horn just to get the approval recorded. Amanda, can you keep track of the numbers so I don't lose them?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Glenn, you seconded it, so I'm assuming it's a yes?
Yes.
Isaac?
I'm a yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Sue, you're a visitor and attending, but not a voting member. Cindy?
No.
Okay. Jeanette?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
And Rick, since you moved the motion, I'm assuming that you're a yes?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Amanda, we got the 2/3?
Yes.
Okay, great. So they're on the...
Wait now. Now they're on the agenda. I have the motion to hear the delegations as we received through email. It'd be Laura Weincourt, Alexis Kaufman, Kyle Cornick, and I think we may have received one from Margot McNabb.
Yes, we received 4, but I think only 3 are speaking today.
Which 3?
I believe it's going to be Alexis, Kyle, and Margot in the order that you talked about.
I'm sorry, Ivano. Somebody just came into the with an unidentified number, 289, ending in 127. Whoever that is.
That's Margot McNabb.
Oh, okay, Margot. Sorry, you're on another line there as well. So yes, you are correct. There's only 3.
All right. In that case, I move that the delegations of Laura Valancourt, Alexis Kaufman, and Alexis Kaufman, Margot McNabb, and Kyle Cornick be heard.
Okay. They're on the agenda, so if we approve the agenda, I think we're good.
You still have to do it this way, to the motion to hear.
Okay, so if you move it, do we have a seconder?
Yeah.
Glenn, any other discussion? Not hearing any. Michael?
Yes.
Glenn, I'm assuming you're a yes.
Yes.
Isaac?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Cindy?
No.
Jeanette?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
Rick, since you moved it, I'm assuming you're good?
Yes, you can just say my name or the mover's name, and I will say yes.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Okay, they're on the agenda. Now, can we get the approval of the agenda? We had a motion and a seconder. Is there any other changes to the agenda? Not hearing any. Let's just get the agenda approved. Michael?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Isaac?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yeah.
Jeanette?
Yep.
Peter?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Great. Any declarations of conflicts by anybody? Not hearing any. I think we're good to go. Approval of minutes. The minutes of the board meeting on June 3rd, 2020. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the minutes and we can have discussion if there's any changes?
Sorry, you're looking for a mover for the minutes of June 3rd?
That's correct.
Yes, I'll move that.
Thanks, Rick. Seconder.
A second.
Thanks, Jeanette. Any discussion? Errors, omissions, changes? Not hearing any. Can I get a vote around the table? Michael?
Yeah.
Glenn?
Yes.
Isaac? Sorry, Isaac, was that a yes?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Yes.
That's okay. Andrea?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Jeanette?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
And Rick?
Yes.
So accepted. Thank you very much. Welcome, delegates. We're now into your session. Welcome to Alexis, Margot, and Kyle. I don't have the pleasure of meeting some of you, although I know some of you. Very quickly, if we just go around the table with the board members, give them a chance to introduce themselves, and then we'll go in order. It'll be Alexis, then Kyle, then Margot speaking. If when it's your turn, if you can give a quick update on yourself, that'd be great. Michael, do you want to just do a quick 2-second intro?
Michael Hunter, Chair of Governance, lawyer at Kozlowski Hunter.
Glenn?
Glenn Gillett Car Cleaning and Tire, where a clean car is a happy car.
Isaac?
Isaac Musial, partner and wealth advisor at Compass Wealth Partners. I sit on the marketing committee as well as on the board of management here.
Andrea?
Andrea De Silva, Chair of the Events Committee.
Cindy?
Hi, I'm Cindy Malachowski. I'm a property owner and manager in downtown Oshawa, and I'm chair of the Community Development Committee.
Jeanette?
Hi guys, I'm Jeanette from Dream Bloom. I'm chair of the beautification committee.
Peter?
Peter Stute. I'm Dean of the Faculty of Social Science and Humanities at Ontario Tech University downtown.
And Rick?
Regional and City Council Rick Kerr, Ward 4 Oshawa, and the City Council rep on the BIA.
And Sue, you're on the board, and I think they know you, but you might as well do a quick intro.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're doing well. I'm City of Oshawa Economic Development, Downtown and Business Development Manager.
And myself, I'm Ivano Labrachosa. I'm the chair of the BIA board, and I'm also the president and CEO of Oshawa Power, and definitely wearing multiple hats these days on different committees and things. So welcome on board to all the delegates. Much appreciated for your time and effort. I'm going to hand off to Alexis, if you don't mind doing a quick intro. Everybody's got 5 minutes. We'll try and keep you on time, but if you need a few more minutes to make your points, we're happy to let you go ahead. So Alexis, you're up first, if you don't mind starting.
Thank you so much, everyone, and hello to the board. For those of you who don't know me, I am Alexis Kaufman. Together with my business partner, Gilad Abrahami, we are a small developer in the Durham region. We are currently developing 2 projects in the downtown core, one being 27 Simcoe, which is slated to be the market and entertainment space. The other is 135 and 35 and 7 Simcoe and King, which is respectively located at the four corners of Simcoe and King Street in the downtown core. So I wanted to come here today as a developer and property owner in the downtown core to first and foremost express my belief in the BIA and the board. So we have worked together with multiple BIAs across different areas that we have developed in. We often are not as public as we become. Most of our developments tend to not garner as much public awareness as obviously the market has, which makes the BIA so vital to our success. We've now become interconnected in the sense that the initiatives that are in much of the 2020 plan for downtown Oshawa systemically support what our private development is doing. And what has come to light recently has given us a great cause for concern. It's also given our investors great cause for concern. I feel that there has been a loss of traction on our success that has been achieved. I do want to advise that we are in support of the levy. We were in the awareness that this had already gone through back in November of 2019, and we were not anticipating the public outcry, for lack of a better term, that did come out recently, which not only then tractioned the levy, but also brought up some other areas for concern at the most recent special council meeting. I believe that the BIA, together with economic development, are vital in the gentrification of this community, and that council, which although separate from the board, is working on the same agendas in order to transform the downtown region for business owners and residents. What I am concerned about is the lack of public statements from the board, given the defaming allegations which have recently come to light. Although there are definitely roles and responsibilities as to who and what speaks at the appropriate time for the BIA, the entire BIA is now under scrutiny and its position within the community being questioned. I believe and I feel and I respectfully request for consideration that the BIA consider a public statement addressing numerous and defaming allegations which have come to light, including and not limited to a public call from certain members of this community to disband the BIA. Loss of traction on successes already achieved under the 2019, early 2020 pre-COVID are being lost in the noise, as well as positive and heartwarming stories about success. The board needs to be transparent, and in so needs to speak transparently towards these allegations. Unless the board comes to light in being able to create, not only when Freedom of Information Acts are requested or emails from specific members of the community, but publicly, transparently, and communicating to the members of this community, I believe that the BIA is at risk. That means that our developments are at risk. That means that economic development is at risk. And that means the perception of the downtown core, which already is having a challenging time in its regrouping, is at risk. It is my request today that the board consider my following request: a public statement speaking about transparency regarding all allegations which have come to light, including and not limited to not only the levy, but the recent audit that was completed. It is my request that not only the executive director become the speaking person for the BIA, but the entire board as a united front. It is my request for consideration that conversations are had with business owners, not just residents, regarding hard and strong tangible items that can be taken into advisement post-COVID in order to still maintain a normalcy within the community for business support, economic development, and community events. I do believe that the discussion to halt and cease all events was made in haste and should have been given proper consideration and responsible discussion with all members of the community and the board to determine if there was a pivot that would allow us to be able to still engage in some of these opportunities at reduced numbers and potential different models. I would like to see the board publicly come out with a revised commitment for business growth, retail sector, culinary and office sector, and businesses, all outlined in your 2020 plan. I believe that at this point, it is time for the board to publicly speak with regards to not only what has been discussed in public forums, but also what has been discussed that needs to be addressed in a unified and statement of not only transparency, but identifying moving forward. We need to make sure that quorum of the board is clear and support for our decisions. I also would like to say that I am disappointed that the board did not take into consideration getting ahead of public traction and perception. I understand it is the mandate of many people to ignore public conversations due to rumor and innuendo. However, when it reaches the census of the type of exposure that was recently highlighted on the BIA, I think it is our fiduciary responsibility as a collective representing not only the public, but the businesses and the gentrification of this community to make a statement. We need to regroup. We need to revisit plans that were in place. We need to make sure that the BIA is vital and necessary to the community. This could be offered in partnership with a small group or medium-sized group of business owners who will also come together on a volunteer basis to offset some of the areas of opportunity. I understand that the levy decision was made on the previous council decision. And I also understand that there was the opportunity, perhaps, to have conversations with the small majority of individuals who were disheartened, dissatisfied, and potentially unable to meet this additional amount on their taxes for the BIA. Separate conversations of arrangements, accommodations, and understanding could have potentially allowed a different outcome. I would also like to understand that going forward, the pivotal role that BIA plays together with our council and our economic development is a vital need to myself. I require a BIA and a community that is able to continue to move forward. We do understand COVID. Our businesses were impacted as well. My millwork company was impacted, my development was impacted, my personal life was impacted. We are all in this together. I am suggesting, however, that it is not the best course of action to completely ignore plans, processes, and discussions, but to reevaluate together with the community, together with those businesses in understanding what are ways that we can gain traction, what are ways that we can support. I ask in closing that the BIA create a public perception campaign in order to regroup their position of importance in this community, understanding that no one is perfect and we were all trying to do our best with the information we were provided. Understanding that transgressions and mistakes may have been made in how we went about certain things. I, for one, am not devoid of knowing this lesson, but it is important that we understand, own our accountability, and pivot forward together. I would like to ask the board to consider full transparency going forward. I would like to ask the board to get ahead of the rumor and innuendo in the community and within different levels of organizations. I would ask the board to pivot their BIA mandate and review and assess decisions that have been to perhaps cancel any and all events and reassess with clear and direct conversations with this community as to how we can still support our businesses moving forward. I believe the only way for gentrification and success of this community is to work together. We are committed to being here in Oshawa, but your public and recent transgressions have caused my company economic hardship. This is cause for concern. You cannot have the only people standing up and having conversations to protect a community's perception be the people in the community. We require you, we require the BIA, we require economic development to work as one cohesive and synergistic unit. In closing, I once again repeat, I request transparency from the board to the public. I request transparency in the sense of getting ahead public perceptions. I would like to see a statement on behalf of the entire BIA board, all of you, not just those who are front-facing to the community. And I would like to see a plan in partnership with private sector members of this community, as well as economic development and city council, that is tangible, realistic, and executable. I am asking the board to not lose a 2020 development, community, and business season. I'm asking us to respond as leaders, and I hope the board will consider my request today.
Can't hear you, Ivano.
Ivano, you're muted.
Sorry, guys, I was trying to find the mute. Thank you, Alexis. I really appreciate your candor and your input. Any questions from the board?
Maybe just one question, if I could. That was a great presentation, very well spoken. Just moving into the piece where the recent transgressions, you're speaking on the transgressions. When you're talking about the transgressions, is it for the lack of the board response, the public response? Is that the area you're speaking of when you're narrowing into the transgressions piece?
So I'm directly commenting on the recent council meeting where the conversation was surrounding the levy, and then it was brought to light regarding the deficiencies in the recent BIA audit. Those two systemically interconnected with each other, as well as a lack of clear voice from the board, has created a community outcry. And right now, in the absence of true leadership, people are listening to anyone who speaks. The challenge with that, sir, is that we are not getting the full picture. You are getting public opinion, you are getting members of council's opinion. And what happens when that is the statement is that facts are not what is being discussed. The challenge with that, obviously, in our world, there is always a gossip, and 90% of it can be ignored. When it cannot be ignored is when the comments are such that you can uneducatedly support a conversation to disband the BIA when there is inflammatory statements that reflect poorly against the board, its initiatives, in its responsibilities to not only the community, but the board itself and council. And so what I'm referring to, sir, is the fact that we, the board, have not spoken. There has not been a transparency. I think that there was a perhaps thought that silence was the more elegant, my goodness, the more elegant and appropriate response. I believe that it has now come to the time when silence is implying wrongdoing. And that concerns me, given how vital this board, all of your members and your initiatives are to the work that we and other members of this community are also trying to do in partnership with you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
I have a quick question.
Sure, go ahead, Cindy.
Okay. Thank you so much for your input, Alexis. It's really valuable. You're very well spoken. I just wanted to touch base on your comment on engaging the businesses and community. I know we sent out a survey and our BIA employees and whatnot had been in touch with businesses. I'm just wondering what element was missing from your perspective, or what you feel we could do better on as far as engagement goes.
So thank you, and thank you for the compliments, and also thank you for the question. I think that the BIA has reached out to businesses with its usual, not right or wrong, as if business is usual. And right now in today's climate, business is not usual across the board, even more highlighted by the scrutiny and public I'll say outcry. That may be a little extreme, but public outcry for transparency. Sometimes I really think that the board needs to get together in public statements, but also in continuing. So emails are one thing, sending out surveys are another. I think this is more of a grassroots time for us right now, where we all, together with a group of volunteers that are all community and focused on these initiatives, need to come together and have conversations at these businesses. And I understand with COVID, but we all have PPE, we all have the ability, and especially now that phase 2 is an opportunity, I'd like to see the BIA on the ground. I would like to see the BIA engaged in real conversations that don't just, and I don't say this, Cindy, to be disrespectful, but don't just tick the box, but actually create tangible potentials of things that these individual businesses require. It also means going the distance. And when I say that, it means, going back to, and I do not agree with a private BIA. The BIA needs income, the BIA needs money, and you cannot make significant change without funds. But I think you need a partnership, right? A partnership with the community that has that cleanup, that has that, street patrol, community watch, that has that, what does your business need? The way it was started on the BIA social media a month or so ago, where we were highlighting businesses, the huge good news announcement of this registry of businesses got lost, right? Everything that is good is getting lost in the noise. And because, Cindy, there is no voice shutting down the noise, we're missing good news stories. Those businesses are being intimidated. They're being shut down from their voice because the voice of the BIA does nothing is far louder than the BIA that does something. And so I think at this time it's a pivot, it's a grassroots, it's back to basics. Yes, many of the high level and high profile items that we wanted to do in the community may be different. Maybe our events need to be ticket sales in the percentage of you get a wristband when you apply, and only wristbands are allowed in to a max of 50 people. There are different ways. I feel that the BIA needs to be louder in creating a pivot for how business will look for 2020 and not what is currently in our agendas.
Thank you so much for explaining that. That's really helpful.
Any other questions? Again, Alexis, thank you very much for your input and your candor, and judging by the questions, I think you definitely made your voice strong and clear in terms of the people around our boardroom table. So thank you very much for your input. Kyle.
Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Rick.
Just a small request. With all these different voices, sometimes we're not sure, I'm not, whose voice is which. Just small request, maybe each speaker or each questioner identify themselves at the start so we know who it is that's speaking.
Sure, I'll help that along. Thank you. Kyle, you're up next, sir. If you want to do a quick intro before you start, go ahead.
My name is Kyle Kornick. I am one of the owners and the CEO of Brew Wizards Board Game Cafe, downtown Oshawa. It's really hard to follow Alexis because she basically nailed everything I wanted to say. But as a business owner downtown, we've been down for almost 4 years now, and quite frankly, this is the first time we've seen an active BIA in terms of Amanda and Angela. Angela's been great since the beginning. Amanda's been amazing since she started. I just want to express my disappointment, not necessarily with you guys on the BIA. It's more so directed at just the happenings of what is going on. I think Alexis touched on a lot of it, so my speaking points will be a lot shorter. But there's been a massive witch hunt, if you will, against the BIA on especially, Facebook, on the Downtown Oshawa group specifically, and a lot of people calling to disband the BIA. And I just want to make it clear that a lot of us businesses downtown do not want the funding cut for the BIA. We are about to enter phase 2 on Friday, and a lot of our competitors and places in other cities have their BIAs fully supporting and helping them fund things like outdoor patios and safety measures like hand sanitizer and signage and everything like that. And unfortunately, and again, this is no knock on Rick because I watched the council meeting, but we had a city council that should be supporting our downtown right now decide to essentially disband our BIA at the most critical time that we could possibly need a BIA. And it's really disheartening to see that we're paying into a levy, because as tenants, we do pay into the levy. That's how our landlord pays the levy, that our voices were essentially ignored. And, there were people at that meeting that said on record that the opinions of tenants don't matter because they don't pay the levy, whereas we pay the levy. It's worked into our lease, it's worked into our monthly payments, and there seems to be a small group of a very vocal minority that are against everything you guys do and against the funding, but a vast majority of us that weren't as loud are very much in favor and are very disappointed with how it proceeded, because quite frankly, this year and all the hard work you guys have done since the announcements last November and everything like that, essentially your time has been wasted, and therefore our levy payments that we have been made have essentially been wasted, because now you guys can't help us spring back like we're supposed to. Again, we're running around right now trying to figure out what we can do for stage 2 or phase 2, to get back to business, because quite frankly, as a business, we've lost 80% of our sales in the last 3 months because we can't have people sit down right now. And this was something we were really excited that you guys as a BIA were willing, you've had mentioned willing to help businesses spring back and bring people have post-COVID events. Much like Alexis said, even something like, a ticketed wristband event would help us a lot more than essentially the nothing we'll be getting at this point. If you look, there's a ton of downtowns, Belleville, Peterborough, even Curtis, for instance, are reaching out to their businesses. Their BIAs are reaching out, trying to figure out how they can help their businesses. And I feel like at this point, as a business downtown, we're not going to get that help. And again, that's no knock on you guys at all. But it is really disheartening to see that every other downtown is doing something right now. And our city, essentially our city has limited what you guys can do to help us spring back after this. And again, the whole vocal minority thing was very disheartening to see, because again, there was no official statements. Anybody is just, a certain select handful of people just running around screaming at the top of their lungs to disband the BIA and feeding misinformation. And quite frankly, it would have been, I think Alexis made a good point where it would have been good if you guys had a message put out to, correct what was being said, because there was a lot of discrepancies in what was being said that, quite frankly, were not true in my eyes. And it was really disheartening to see that now you guys are on the hook for all these things at the decision of a couple city councilors. And that's also really disheartening to see that essentially all the work you've done has been quashed by 5-6 people that have decided that they don't want to support our downtown right now. I'm not trying to be negative with the whole post. I do love the work that you guys do. It just really sucks as a business to see that you've essentially been pushed to the side, and now all this stuff you've been working on for years is gone to waste. And again, as a business owner, it's just really disheartening to see. Yeah, Alexis pretty much said everything I wanted to say. I just wanted to add a couple things. But yeah, we do feel as businesses downtown that our voices are no longer heard by the city. Well, there are a couple councilors that, have reached it. Like there are a couple people at the city that definitely care, but it feels like as a whole, like they're more concerned over what's happening in other parts of the city than getting the downtown back on track, because I'm downtown every single day and there are issues. We can't turn our eyes to that, but there are ways of resolving these issues. And I feel like it's going to be a very tough road for us if we don't have you guys as a voice out there, like the BIA as a voice helping us out, because you are our first line of contact with everything. Ever since we've opened, it's always been, you've basically been our first line of communication with the rest of the city when we've had concerns or anything like that. I think that's really all I have to say.
Thanks, Kyle. You're around the corner from me, so I always walk by the place there, and
yes, you are.
Yeah, it looks great. So thank you for taking the time to come up in front of the board and expressing your thoughts and interests. And Alexis made the point that we're getting to that next stage, and the BIA is needed more and more. I couldn't agree more with her on sort of our role and approach. And same with you. We'll do whatever we can to keep delivering the best services we can to our members, living within the economic realities of what we have. So I want you to not feel abandoned in this respect. We're not going anywhere. I think we're moving forward, but thanks for your comments. I'm going to open the floor to any questions by any of the board members. Okay, on that note, thank you very much, Kyle. You're welcome to stay on. You're welcome to stay on if you like, or you can sign off anytime you like as well.
Awesome, thank you.
Great. Next up, Margot. Do you mind doing a quick intro and then start into your presentation?
Okay, thanks very much for hearing from me. I've been a realtor in the Oshawa area since 1983. Excuse me. I'm basically in favor of the BIA. My concern that brings me in front of you is related directly to one of my clients I sold a property to, 79 Center Street South. And I did that a year and a half ago with great enthusiasm because I was aware that the CBD area had been extended. And I thought, what a great place. It was a nice old house, and with some renovations, which were desperately needed, that it would be a great addition, probably as professional offices, but possibly something like a little art gallery. I really feel for my client at this point because I promoted something to him that I believed in. And the central business development area zoning is what I was promoting to him. And I kind of forgot that also meant the BIA because the two are synonymous. My client has had a really rough go with this house. And part of what I want to say to you is BIA, but part of it is also Sue Lupton is here in the meeting, is that there's an interrelated relationship between the city and the BIA. And we need to really examine some aspects of that, and not only the city, but also the Durham Police Department. My client assumed a tenant. In retrospect, I wish we hadn't, but the man seemed fine at the time. His wife walked out on him, and he immediately became a street person. The house was a huge collection of bicycles. I said to my client, it looks like a bike questionable ring. Go to the police. The police refused to help him. He went, Ben and Willa Navarro are my clients. Ben went to the police department several times. They refused to help him. And then one day, about December 18, he called me in a panic one Friday night. The police had just stun grenaded the house and smashed the historic door in and were in there. And he'd been to them a number of times to ask for help with his tenant. He got no help from them. And then he's got a smashed in door that, because it was a historic door, 84-inch high, it took several months to get the door replaced. And it's just an ongoing situation. It's kind of I have concerns about the downtown itself as well with the COVID situation. And my client specifically, he's continually fighting off human feces and used sanitary napkins and drug paraphernalia around this property, and he gets no help with this sort of thing. And then at the end of the day, when he's finished renovating it in a few months, we were planning to promote it as a maybe a lawyer's office or some professional office. And I'm just horrified by finding out that I've dragged him into this situation with these, what from the Facebook mess the last few weeks sounds like just a deal breaker amount of BIA levies. So correspondingly, I've downloaded the Business Improvement Area Handbook dated 2/10, and it says similarly, on page 66 of the handbook, it says similarly, council may set special charges for properties that derive greater or less than average benefit, in council's opinion, from the BIA. And that also ties in with the Cooper Car Place around the corner, a few blocks over. Like, I divide commercial customers into walk by or drive by or destination. And destination businesses, whether they're commercial or professional, they will not get much benefit from the BIA. And I would like to see you people considering maybe making a modified. I'm quite in favor of the BIA, but I think some of these people that might be buying property in this area need to be given a little bit of different treatment. I've been told by a couple of different people that the BIA is the BIA and the charges are the charges and that's it. But when I read the provincial government handbook, there are exemptions possible. So I'd like you to consider maybe making a lower levy for people that are really not going to benefit from any of the BIA promotional events. For example, if I was going to Cooper Car Place to get my oil changed or my tires done, the last day I'd be going there is when they were having one of their big promotions. I don't think Cooper should be charged these fees as well. And the same thing goes for the Oshawa Clinic. I had an interesting thing happen to me about 8 or 9 years ago. I was selling a property up in Hanover, and one of the clients came down to it. She was saying, "What are you doing here from Oshawa?" And then she says, "Oh, that's where that wonderful clinic is. We go down there, the lady and her husband go down there every year to get all of their specialty medical treatment done." And I, being an Oshawa resident, I was oblivious to the fact that it's the largest day hospital in Canada. And I really think their needs need to be dealt with. You need to moderate the charges going to these people. Anyway, that's the base of why I wanted to speak to you. Plus, listening to all the Facebook stuff for the last little while and hearing about all the grubby streets, it took me back to 1990 when I helped the downtown merchants in Oshawa organize a situation to go to council just at the time of the last election, in the election in 1990. And the DAC, the Downtown Action Committee, came out of that. And in the 20 years since 1990, really, the town condition isn't a whole lot better than it was. So the COVID stuff I recognize as an exemption, something that needs to be dealt with separately. But the city has been slowly, the condition of the city, the downtown area has really not improved in the last 20 years. When somebody is setting rent, like if some landlord buys property and they set rent, there's a hierarchy of costs, and the amenity value has to be there before you get decent rents for the thing. So that ties back into the BIA themselves and their cooperative relationship with the city. I don't think the BIA should be responsible for cleaning the city streets, but I think the city needs to get involved and do something. It's not enough to pick up cigarette butts. They've got to go in and pressure wash those streets. You won't find new, decent tenants if the streetscape isn't clean. Anyway, that's basically everything I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Margot. Thanks again for providing the feedback and input. It's certainly something we recognize and are working on. Any questions from the board members? Okay, hearing none. Thanks again, Margot, and that concludes our delegations.
Thanks for giving me the time.
You're very welcome. Okay. Next item on the agenda is discussion and budget direction. Folks, you have your materials in front of you. Amanda, do I want to ask you to walk us through this, or do you need to walk us through any of this stuff you sent out, or do we want to raise questions first regarding, I would suspect we're looking at that one budget sheet that's in front of us. Sorry, I don't have it in front of me. Yes, there it is. Amanda, do you want to quickly walk us through some of the items you flagged on here, or no? Or do you want to walk us through the logic on this, or?
I can walk you through some items.
Great.
So just like I would in a typical month. So you'll see on here, there are some changes from the May 19th year to date that you received. Obviously that didn't go to the end of May. So just starting off the top, so the city has paid us out $270. So we do owe money. I'm not sure at this point whether that will come this year or next year. I'm assuming it will be taken off of our 2021 levy.
What's that amount? I know the approved city budget was $268,750. Is that the number?
I believe so, yes. So we're at $270,888. So just about $2,000 roughly. Okay, sorry, just moving down the list. So there was a professional fee that was moved from the legal trademarks and events. So that was incorrectly coded and filed by the accountant. So it was caught and then it was adjusted and moved. We've also, under memberships, just due to time constraints, there was a coding error between Angela and the accountant that was caught on Monday when I received the financials. Our monthly subscriptions have been filed under this account and they should be moved into the mixed media campaign. However, due to those time constraints, as I just talked about in the 24-hour turnaround, it was determined just to leave it. The amounts are what they are and there's no incorrect invoices that were found in there. So if you look at the line by line items, it's the Canva, Adobe platform management tool that we utilize and our cloud software. Sorry.
So you're showing that in memberships? I'm sorry. What? Sorry, can you go over that again?
Yep. So in the line by line, you'll see Canva, Adobe, like our platform management tool on there. I believe it's Meet Edgar. There's also cloud software. So our Dropbox account and whatnot is also all in the memberships. It should be a mixed media campaign.
Okay.
It doesn't. It doesn't change the amounts. I just didn't want to pull those out of the account and wait.
And you're saying the legal got transferred out? Because yeah, you're right. It shows as 963 to 0 from one month to the next. Where did it go?
So that went under professional fees. So legal events trademarks is just for events trademarks, whereas the professional fees are audit, accounting, and then also other legal fees as required.
So if I were to look at professional fees, the monthly accumulation in June was $228, but yet that account's moved up by about $2,000. So 1,000 of it, I guess, is legal. Where's the other 1,000 coming from?
I'm sorry, I don't have both sheets up in front of me. Can you say that again?
Yeah, I think if I look at the May statement for I look at the May statement for professional fees.
Mm-hmm.
It was listed as
912.
Yeah.
Correct. Yes.
Yep. So
Okay.
if I add another $900 to that from legal, that moves it up to about 2,000. It's only showing 228 in June, so I think you're about 700-800 short on that. Where did that come from?
So we have our monthly fees that were not accounted for in the May statement. So the May accountant fee, the June accountant fee, and then I believe there was something else, but there's multiple transactions to drive that number up. You can see it in the line by line.
Okay, great. Keep going.
The next one was, so again, Angela coded her projects with the accountant for a DHL expense and a rental for moving the reefs. So those were left in the training, education, and travel. And you can see those on the line by line. Those actually need to be moved down into winter reefs, but the amounts are not incorrect. They're just in the incorrect line. Again, in a rush, I had an hour turnaround time, 2-hour turnaround time from seeing the financials to getting them to you. So I didn't want to hold that up, but that's been identified with the accountant for moving. From the May statement to the June statement, there was also a piece on the website line. So you'll see the website line actually goes down. There were 2 wages that were put into that line incorrectly. So there was a summer student wage. Our summer student that we found and interviewed was actually a website writer through the marketing committee prior to his employment with us through the summer job grant through the government. So the accountant assumed that his continued pay would be in that website line. That is incorrect. So he was moved up to the proper one, and then an expense claimed by an employee was also moved up. So that line actually went down, but the staff wages went up. And that was just due to a coding error as well. You'll see in the Bright and Mary, it's been corrected. So there was an incorrect amount. It was just a conversion error from USD to CAD from May to June. So it jumped by $300 or so. Sorry, I can only have so many screens up on my screen at once here. But that difference equates to a conversion with the accountant. There was an invoice for a projector, which is good news. However, I flagged it with the accountant that he has to be showing it in the first line as a minus there. But there was an invoice for a projector that was canceled after your decision from an account with Grandin Toy off of the Summerfest line. So that actually brought it down. We were able to correct that before we spent money on it. And then down at the winter, down at the bottom, the winter greenery. So the accountant actually included the entire invoice for the winter greenery. However, there were deposits that were in 2019, not 2020, that were based on our RFP and our deposits for like what we owe to hold the project. And so I basically asked him to take off that deposit because that is incorrect. That was not the amount we paid in 2020. So he adjusted to, I believe the amount was $2,591 was the amount that he adjusted off of that. So it was a deposit and then also the HST recovered from as well. Is there anything else? I think besides that, sorry, Ivano, not to do your job, I think everything else is just salaries and subscriptions and rent and whatnot.
So with the adjustments you just talked about, that sort of explains May to June and shifting dollars from one line to the next, but the numbers are correct, I guess, is what you're saying. It's just moving the dollars around within the right categories. That's
correct, yeah. And from the time I got, from the time I got the financials yesterday, I mean, the numbers are correct on here. We do need to move, like I said before, that membership line down into mixed media in the future. But that won't deviate in the amount that we move.
And so do you want to walk through your colored lines? I guess I'm looking at the colored things. You kind of highlighted some of those things. Maybe you can walk through. So now that we know the totals are accounted for, maybe you can talk about what the significance of the colored items you are in terms of choices or situations we're facing.
Yeah, for sure. So the top line is obviously the levy. It's a risk. The board needs to know that in 2021 they will be asked to repay this, or we'll seek further understanding from the city on this. But this is open. This is an open question at this point. The SMOTS grants and other revenues really depend on staff being here to be able to initiate projects. Depending on whatever outcome is decided by the board, that money may or may not have to be given back according to project. Again, rent and occupancy costs is highlighted in orange. There was a note in documentation that our leaseholder is waiving 6 months, and then they'll charge us for 7 in January. And then if you move down to training and education, so there is an amount that we are receiving back due to the OBIA conference being canceled for COVID-19. So that equates to $2,265.10. We do lose I believe $60. If you look in the line by line, there's 3 charges for OBIA. We do lose a $60 admin charge because that's payment processing and through their ticket website. So we lose that small $60.
So just so I understand you correctly, just given the couple of things you just mentioned, maybe I can just recap. So you expect that we would owe $2,000 from the first line item with the over contribution on levy based on what was approved. You're flagging, I don't know if you said that 28,000 is at risk or not.
So in comment number 2, at the bottom, sponsorships and grants in the total of 28,613.
Yeah.
refund it without staff, but if remain at whatever is decided, even with summer students being used to maintain those programs, depending on staffing levels,
Do you think it can be delivered with revised staff?
I believe all of those can be yeah.
Okay.
I'm not confident that we can maintain all of those monies.
And the $2,000 on the OBIA conference, we have yet to receive that, but we will. So you have not reflected that potential here.
That's true. The cash has not come in, so it's not showing on the income statement. It was confirmed on Friday that we would be receiving that back from OBIA.
So in theory, we're up 2 on the levy, and we're going to get 2 from training, so they might wash each other out. So that's fine. Okay, sorry about that. I'm taking you slowly through the lines. Okay, great. Keep going.
So the Oshawa General Street the Bright Mary. So the Bright Mary, we have paid the 50% deposit for our igloos. That deposit is overdue now since our May 20th meeting. They have stated, I asked them whether or not they would push it into the future. They have stated that it is a non-refundable deposit as agreed upon, and they would like payment so that they can ship it out. They've been done for a while on it. So the whole payable is showing there, and we owe, I believe it's in the line by line items, exactly 50% of that amount.
So 50% of that, another 4,300, it would be the remaining balance. That's not shown on this number.
No, that's shown in that number.
So
that's the total amount.
It's assuming we've paid it, but we haven't yet.
Agreed. Yes.
Okay.
Down below.
Sorry, just on that particular note, what's our liability on that? Can we push that off, or do we have to?
I asked whether or not we could push it off, and they stated that essentially they want the payment. We can forego it, and they'll keep the product, the deposit. They won't legally come after us for the remainder. They'll just sell it, but we would would lose the first 50%.
And we have not taken receipt of the product, correct?
No, we have not. They would not ship it without the other 50%.
So just a further question on that for ultimate clarification. We've already paid out 4,340.
Yes, correct.
The remaining 4,340 is owing to finalize the purchase. If we don't pay that, we just lose the $4,000. If we do pay it, we get the igloos.
That is correct.
That's to rent them, correct? Or is that's to rent them?
No, last year when we rented, the number was around $15,000. So this year, the events committee in January, according to the meeting minutes, or meeting notes, sorry, said that we would buy them. So we went ahead and we purchased them. We received 3 quotes, or Carice did the work and did 3 quotes. And then we went with the best and most reputable, but also the most efficient in price.
Yeah. So the $8,680 is to purchase how many igloos?
So 4 igloos in the same size as the last year's Bright Marys.
And when we take possession of them, where were we gonna store them or keep them, or had that not been figured out yet?
So the igloos actually get broken down into pieces that would accommodate into our storage in the basement. So we had the dimensions and we had accommodated the space for them.
So
Amanda, go ahead, Glenn. Sorry.
So obviously the canceling of this is due to COVID. So we wouldn't be able to buy 2 of them? And
Well,
not,
that was the other question that I asked. So we could take 50. Thank you for asking that. We could take 50% of the deposit and take 2 of them instead of 4. However, they would like an additional charge for cancellation and shipping of those 2. So that's in the value of $500.
Amanda?
Yes.
Yeah. Do we have a contract that we signed with them for these igloos?
No, it was an invoice. It wasn't it was an RFQ, not an RFP.
Okay. So were there any terms or clauses around
we've discussed that, yes. Yeah.
taking these igloos or not taking it, or any unforeseeable events and things like that?
No, this is not like when we, so very good question. Under the wine festival, for example, we had those terms and conditions when we signed like a service contract or a venue contract, but that is not for purchase of physical goods like this.
Do you have an email requesting for the refund? Like just something in a trail if you asking them for the cancellation due to COVID and we're not moving ahead with that? Because it would just seem so, you know, unethical of a company to just not issue a refund given light of the situation that has happened. It's beyond everybody's control that that they can't cancel it. I mean, they should have no problem selling it in the future because that's what they do. That's their business.
Yeah, no, and I can definitely request those for you. And I can request a statement from them. The igloos were custom made for us as well. So they've stated that twice with me.
Okay. All right. If you can just get like a trail of some sort so we can have that in the interest of transparency as well. And maybe you can send it to the board and just so Michael as well as governance and his law background can just have a quick look at that and we can just keep that on file for future reference.
Most certainly.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
But at the very least, we should take possession of the two and pay the $500. I mean, that would be the worst case scenario, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's a good comment. I think we can talk about that, but yeah, I think there's some choices here. What I'm taking out of it is we're showing 8,000 in spend, but really we've only paid 4. We've got a decision to make as to what we're doing with the next 4. But
no, I get that. It's showing actual 8, but we've only actually paid out 43.
Right.
Okay.
Good. Keep going, Amanda. I think all good points. I think we have to make some decisions there. Keep going.
So the green line is the wine festival. So the deposit was paid to the Robert McLaughlin Gallery. They are, of course, a downtown member. They recognize, and we had language within the contract, not specifically for pandemic, but it did outline these circumstances. So they will, and they will generously offered to give it back to us. So that was welcome. So we'll be receiving that money. Down below in the comments, I did state that it was the full $1,400. I believe that it's closer to $1,200. $200 was for the creation. And sorry, I just actually want to pull this up here just to make sure. Flipping between screens here. So yeah, so I'm correct. So $1,250 we would be receiving back, and then the $150 was for the AGCO, so our Alcohol Gaming and Commission essentially license that we cannot receive back. So that's to serve alcohol within that space. So that was already processed, permitted, and approved through the government. So our refund would be $1,250.
Okay, keep going.
Just one moment.
You talked about winter greenery.
Oh, winter greenery. Yeah, no, it's just, and Ivano and I had previously spoken about this. So the invoice came in 2019. The cash flow is from 2020. This is from a cash flow perspective. I have asked the accountant whether or not this was counted in the 2019 audit. I've not received a response back, but this was out of 2020 levy money, and it was paid in 2020, so I believe February. And then, sorry, do you want me to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's one.
So I just want to leave it for a question or comment. So the Christmas lights the company is fantastic and willing to work with us. I'm trying to figure out details right now with them. They are looking to hopefully push it into 2021 should the board decide, and they have no problem with that. They will hold it for us and they won't charge us extra. They're just verifying that with their company bosses or whatnot. So that total amount is $35,970.
So is that included in the 49 or?
That's included in the 49. The previous 49,000, like that, the rest of that was filled up in other months and in the line by line items.
So if I go through the summaries, I think, like I said, there's a wash of 2K. If I look at revenue for levy and return of money from the registration of the OBIA conference, there's roughly about 5,000 in events, that $4,000 for the igloos. If we decide something else, we'll have to make an adjustment there, plus 1,200 for wine festival. And it looks like 35,000 for streetscape. So we're probably, there's probably another 40,000, I guess, depending on what decisions we make. If we do it in a way to save money or conserve cash, may not be the best decision, but there's about 40,000 that could be added to this, correct?
That is correct. There are some risks, of course, that I identified to the board, is that especially when it comes around our rent and whatnot, those pieces would obviously be a big hit in January and required to pay. So you just want to be aware of what 2021 will look like and those commitments that you're making into 2021.
And so when you flow that down, just following the numbers, it's 33,557 is the surplus up to this point, plus plus the reserve at the beginning of the year. It shows that we'll end up with a reserve or an amount of 85, notwithstanding the 40 that we just talked about.
So that surplus of 33 includes the grants also in there as well. So
correct.
3,000 in sponsorship and grants.
Correct. We talked about that.
It would depend on what your decision and what that 33 would look like.
Do you want to go through the considerations and then scenarios? Unless there's any other questions. Everyone's got the math on that one. Are we good?
I just have, just going back to the rent and occupancy costs. So the 4869, is that rent from January to June, and then not counting the deferred cost, that what they've agreed to defer till January?
Yes, that's correct. That's year to date.
So to your point, Glenn, if we decide to take the opportunity offered to us, which is save the cash, we've got a balloon payment we got to make in January that covers the rest of this year and next. It's not reducing the amount, it's just pushing it out and deferring it.
Right, it's right. Okay, yeah, no, okay, I understand.
Any other question on the moving parts and pieces that make up the numbers and sort of the math that's talked about before we get to the other pieces? Okay, good. Do you want to talk about the considerations next, Amanda?
Of course. So as you all know, Digital Main Street was announced recently. The BIA is applicable or able to apply for a $10,000 grant to go towards staffing time for visiting each business, helping them apply, essentially promoting their business through the Digital Main Street grant. I'm sure, Isaac, you know all about this, or you can elaborate as a grant winner. And then we also have 3 summer positions that were approved by the government. The money for those have not come in yet, so just keep that in mind. It does not show as a revenue yet. One of those positions is held as of right now. However, there are 2 summer positions and we have approval to do them back to back. So we can hire one person for one position and then they transfer into that next position. So one of the considerations is applying for the Digital Main Street, having somebody run that program, and then also utilize the 2 summer positions to kind of carry them throughout. There are parameters around management needed to oversee this person in the summer job grant that we approved. In addition, they have to be a certain age, they have to have been out of school. There's all kinds of conditions there. And then the second one is the website.
Sorry, before you move on that one. So the grant is money for the BIA. Just following the cash on this one, do we get the money up front, or do we have to show the expense and apply and then wait for the money to come back in?
Good question. The money, I verified that the money comes first. So we use the money rather than the opposite, the other way around.
And so the hook you said with the 10,000 is you've got to have somebody there to supervise to some extent, but there's no other hooks on the money other than conditions of age and other things. So in other words, they cut us a check for 10K. We don't have to demonstrate, other than the fact that we have somebody overlooking the deployment of this. We don't have to demonstrate that money has to go all to an external party.
So two different, sorry, you've kind of melded them together. So the two summer student positions, they need management, and they also need to have age verifications and different things around that. The $10,000 digital Main Street grant is very specific into exactly what they should be doing with that, or what we should be doing with that money. There is no age restrictions on that, but however, they do need to be managed as well. So I did identify that the person, you know what, I'll just leave that for the in-camera because that's talking about someone's employment.
Okay, and then on the student side of it, is that a net zero? So in other words, that grant money, or that money that you show there for summer students, it's in and out. We basically, if we get it from the government, I guess is what you're saying, we have to pay that out to the student, or do we have to top up, or do we take a margin on that? Is there any netting of that?
So it's an in and out with the exception of Merck. So in number 2 on the list, I do talk about the summer job grant. So we do have to pay an estimated $1,500 for all 3 positions for the summer.
So that comes out of our pocket.
That's the mandatory employer's remuneration. It's whatever we pay the government of Canada for.
So is that in the number on your number 2? That's in that 28,613 already, or no? Or we have to add that to it?
You have to add that to it.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Can I move on to the second consideration?
Sure, unless there's any other questions on number 10.
Okay. The website needs to be hosted, so please disregard this $2,400. The website hoster has said that they will do that for us. They will charge us $150 in 2021, and that will be all that they charge us. So they're giving it to us essentially for free, and we do not have to pay that amount in the future.
Okay, so number 11 is basically $150 in 2021.
That is correct.
That's for 2020s, correct?
That's for 2020s, correct.
Okay, great.
And then we would go back to the RFP contract for hosting and the amount per month, which would be part of the 2021 discussions on whether you would like to continue or cancel that.
Okay. Any discussions on any of those considerations? Okay. Do you want to talk about the scenarios or the potential outcomes?
Sure. So scenario, and it's very, I tried to provide as much as I could. I know that most of this will have to be discussed in camera based on labor relations and your choices and employee options. So I tried to do my best to explain without going into that aspect of it. So the first one is really if all payrolls were to be pushed into 2021 with refunds included, and what was that cash value for you? So Ivana, you had already kind of alluded to that and just a second ago. And then how would that reflect into the employee options that you were provided based on either a layoff scenario, termination scenario, and or a maintaining and maintenance scenario. And then identified the risks of you do need to pay these in 2021. So just being careful and considerate of those. Scenario number 2 is, of course, the BIA could pay 2020 payables and then consider all staffing options and legal responsibilities, but that's an in-camera item.
So in just, you've mentioned it twice in terms of those options. I think if I remember right in that document, there were 6 options in there. 6 combinations and permutations of staffing considerations, I guess, is that what we want to call them?
It should be pretty, yeah, I believe you have a comprehensive in those 3 categories of laying off, termination, and or maintenance. And you can do any one of those, a combination of those, and you have the dollar figure for that as well.
Yeah, they seem to be A's and B's. There were 6 items, and then there were a bunch of other items underneath that we're just talking about now. So that's the document, right?
Yes, and you're not beholden to one set of A and B. You can do a B from one column and a B choice from another column. So it's up to you. if that's okay, I would rather leave that to you guys.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure we all knew what the document that goes with those two scenarios that you were just talking about. So suffice it to say that, sorry, coming back to salaries and benefits, that's just current and it stops as of this week, or?
It stops as of this Saturday.
Right, okay.
So I do want to state in option scenario 1, we have received a number of emails from individuals requesting to rent our materials because there are other BIAs that are proceeding with events. So those BIAs had known about this based on our OBIA calls and when we were talking as a group, essentially, what are you doing and sharing ideas. They knew about this before our levy and as far back as March. So when they heard about the decision, they've reached out and asked to rent. In addition to, we had a vendor who we were renting a transmitter, for example, for our drive-in movies in downtown. When we decided to cancel or say that we did not need an invoice, they offered to rent that screen that we bought, the movie screen, off of us as well. So there's a low end estimate of what we can probably make in a year by renting out our equipment to other downtowns or other vendors who will be putting on events still.
Okay. Do you have an estimate of what you think that is? Because he didn't include it here.
It's in scenario number 1, so I estimated on the low end, I believe 5,000.
Oh, okay, great.
And I do want to emphasize that it really depends on a second wave and what will be considered. So, and I did counter into that you would be spending the full igloos, because I know the igloos alone, we rented them the year previously for quite a bit of money. So I'm sure if there was a one-time event and somebody needed them, we could rent them out for a similar value as well.
So this 5,000 is only the projection stuff for the drive-in stuff that you were just talking about, not the igloos, because obviously we haven't made the payments on the igloos.
Correct. It's only the drive-in movie screen.
Yeah, so it's only including the things we actually have in our possession today, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Glenn.
What did we pay? What was our cost to rent the igloos?
I don't have that exact amount off the top of my head right now, but if you want to give me 2 minutes in a second, I can go and look for you.
Well, just a ballpark.
It's between 12 and 15,000.
What? To rent how many?
To rent 4 for 2 days.
Really?
Yeah. Yes. And that was after we did multiple quotes. That was the price of them.
But just so it doesn't make it look too awful here, but did that not include setup and maintenance and everything on site?
It did. It included generators as well for them. So we had previously inflatable igloos, and this time we have the clear, transparent with metal interlocking pieces. Same size, same doorway, same footprint. It's just one is inflatable and one is not. So we didn't have that generator cost for us.
So Glenn, I didn't want you walking away thinking they were equal. They're different. One was kind of a service plus product. This one's just a product that we have.
But the non-inflatable, so the one that we had actually put the deposits on were the non-inflatable one?
Yes, that's correct. So several times during the Bright and Merry, say we walked away and the generator was running and the generator ran out of gas. There was 2 instances where a large igloo would deflate. I'm sure Jeanette can recall, as she was there on the Friday night when it happened. So we opted to go with a non-inflatable one for this year to mitigate risks.
So they're actually, I would guess they're a better quality then.
They are, yes.
Okay.
You want to go through scenario 3?
Yep. Just 1 second. I got to flip back here. So scenario 3, and the BI could not pay its payables. And I want to make it very clear that I'm not completely recommending this. because of legal and whatnot, but you could forfeit all of those deposits. As of right now, the winter lights, the igloos you're not beholden to anything in a contract owing that money because you've not received the product. And then countering into the refunds for the RMG and the OBIA conference, your legal risk would be around the requirements for our office lease, our phone, and our internet. Now, the internet at Core 21, if we were to maintain there, they would provide us with internet over the next couple of months, so we could exit that contract fairly soon from our provider. But we would not have a phone.
Okay. That sort of walks us through all the financials. Any other questions on that? Okay, so we have it in front of us. It doesn't, it looks like, as I said, the situation is we're net positive as of today by 33 with a possibility of going 40, another 40, so 70, which basically takes care of, all the bills in front of us with the exception of things we walk away from. We'll have to make a decision on the walk away. We'll have to make a decision on what we do going forward. We have a couple of staffing options where we can go in camera to talk about that. Is it clear for most in terms of where we're sitting? Because before we go in camera, I guess, because we got to decide, the labor component that's left here. The financial numbers are in front of us. It looks like we're reasonably afloat with some options.
So, Ivano, if I may?
Sure.
It's Rick Kerr. Is there a way that we can just simplify these scenarios and just say, this is the bottom line of what we have between now and the end of December, and according to the strat plan or however you want to word it, here are the list of priorities of services and programs that as a board we think are optimal to be provided, and here's a cost for each. I'm just trying to get a handle on distilling these down so we get to the essence of what's available and what the costs are, so that as a board we can begin to prioritize and see where that takes us, where we end up.
Yeah, I mean, on the event side, we decided in our submission to council that we were not going to run the events, and so we basically had shuttered the event side. We had left monies in streetscape and promotion, some basics that are there, and you see that in front of you. I guess the way it sits today, there's nothing going on between now and year end, and if we assume that, we end up with a surplus of some money. So to your point, I'm not sure what we want to do and what we can afford to do between now and the year end and who will do it. The who part will be a discussion in camera, I guess, in terms of staffing. It's quite clear we can't keep going the way we are with the 2 people and the plan, whatever plan we had put forward. So we're definitely reducing that plan.
Yeah, and I guess that's my point. I mean, if we know how much we have basically per month, if we can actually say that, understanding that maybe some months may vary a bit, but if we don't have any events coming forward and there's no income outgo associated with that, and we get our payables paid, what do we have left and what does that give us? And I think that would just maybe pare it down to give us a clearer idea of what our options might be.
Yeah, so one of the caveats is there's a $28,000 sort of bubble of grant money that commits us to doing something. So we either give that back, and Amanda, maybe you can talk about what we have to do with that. So there's definitely got to be somebody here to take care of whatever money we're receiving for the grant money. Maybe Amanda, you can give us the math on that.
Yep. So we have, so the Stopgap Foundation project has to move forward. Marketing and promotion, whether organic or whatnot, has to proceed. The sponsors that had donated to events, because there are revenues in there that are for events, those sponsors are not withdrawing them if they can get marketing through our channels. So the marketing and communications has to be maintained. And then So we can keep that money if we continue it, and then of course the grant revenue through that as well.
So what's the net effect of that, Amanda? So, you know, like if it's, you know, keep 28, we got to spend 28. I think that's a net neutral. So we might as well take it out of the monies now. Or, you know, to keep 28, we got to spend 12. Then we at least got a net effect there. We know we've got another 12 to go on spend, because when you say marketing, I'm assuming that's people.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yes, it is.
So what's the net effect on that one? So I at least know how much more I have to spend to keep that.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it comes down to employment options, right? So
One person till the end of the year. I mean, it doesn't have to be full time, but there's one person for 6 months. Is that what it is?
it is, yes.
Okay, so at least we know there's got to be one head somewhere, part time, whatever. I would assume part time, that we have to keep between now and December. Is that fair?
That is fair, yes. I believe that's fair. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so Rick, does that help you out a little bit? If I do the math on what we have left, it's basically, you know, if I take 30 divided by 6, that's about 5 a month. If I take 70 and I get 30 from what we have today, and I get 70 from cashing in all the chips we have, it's, you know, basically doubling that. So it's anywhere from 5 to 11,000 a month between now and the end of the year to keep going, which could go towards salaries or can go to other things. Does that help you out, Rick?
It does, because I think if you just get it down to the nuts and bolts, I just think it simplifies the decisions. I mean, obviously we have some interesting decisions to make as a board this afternoon, and I think that the simpler that it is, rather than getting into the weeds of what this costs and how much we can get back or whatever, what do we need to get us from here to the end of December? What can we get to get us to the end of December, and what does that look like in terms of, you know, if it is one person, no people, two people, what kind of services can we provide to the BIA membership? I'm sure whatever comes out of this meeting, we're going to need to communicate that clearly to the BIA membership, and they're going to want to know what they're going to be getting for what their levy is, and you know, going towards the end of the year. I just think that the simpler we can make this in terms of paring things down and comparing, I think it's going to be resulting in a more straightforward decision for the board.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to hear from some of the others as to what you think we need to be doing between now and year end, because that, you know, Rick raises a point. We've just boiled it down to what the monthly value is. You know, I really appreciate what Alexis is saying. We haven't really done much communication because we're trying to sort through, you know, what do we have left? Where are we? And, you know, certainly lots of accusations. I think her point's well taken that people are launching arrows out there or making statements, and we haven't been vocal about it. We've been sort of silent, trying to figure out which end is up on our end, responding to all the things. Kyle raises a point. He's in the, you know, the forward-facing, front-facing restaurant business, or sort of retail, I guess, hosting and servicing kind of business. He's talking about, I need help now. What does that look like from us? And he relies on the BIA. So I don't know. I want to hear from the rest of you going, what do you think we need to do in terms of some of the stuff we got to provide these people? Like, are we a response mode? So somebody answering phones and emails and shuttling questions over to the city? Sue, you're on the call. I mean, you heard some of the comments about, hey, we expect the city to do stuff. Margot was talking about cleaning up, security, those kinds of things, and that we can't do it all ourselves, but we're a bit of the conduit over for your side of the business, Sue, around trying to organize who needs what and accelerate priorities. That to me is kind of responsive. You wait for the emails and calls and then shuttle them across.
Yeah, that's correct, Ivano.
So does it look like manning phones and email kind of thing, which is pretty basic stuff, but it's almost like somebody being there pretty much all day kind of thing?
I have to say, I agree with the counselor that with Councillor Kerr, is that I think that the board needs to get a really concise of what that budget's going to look like, and then can make some informed decisions financially.
All right, well,
Are we going in camera to discuss this or?
Not yet. I think we can.
Okay.
We're not going to talk about the who. I'm just trying to get a sense. Maybe have an open dialogue about how much. Like we talked about, to keep 28, we're going to need somebody. So that at least commits us to some element of people. I'm trying to get a sense for the other part of the day, or if it's a half day or whatever. Like, what do we expect? I have a feeling we're going to need more support out there as the businesses open up, as they turn to the BIA, or do we point them to somewhere else? I don't know. So you guys are in the businesses like I am, going, how much do you think you're going to need from the BIA to help people open up, whether it's a restaurant or a service or something?
I think Ivano, on that note, it's really not what do they need, it's what we can offer at this point, because essentially they could, bouncing back, the BIA would need as much people as we can give them, but right now it's not a question. We know what they need, but this is what we have to work with. We'll have to work with what we have. We can't give them what they want. So what we need to figure out, I think, is to how to fit what we have to at least give them the at least a minimal service from on our side, on the BIA side. And I think that's the best we can do, because our hands are tied. We're limited in the budget that we have. So it's not a matter of how much do they need. It's a matter of what we can provide with what we have right now.
Yeah, and going off what Jeanette said, I think it's just optimizing the minimum resources that we have to try and fit the demands. So
I mean, one of the big pieces here is that staff engagement of 250 or 300 members that we have is impossible now. That's been taken away from us completely. You can only steer them. You can only have staff work so many hours in a day. They can only do so much. They can only focus on so much. And I mean, that's kind of been pulled out from under us for what we're able to offer. So I think maybe going back to Alexis's point is we need to figure out what we need to do. But I think what we need to do is as much as possible and utilize and get as much money as possible while keeping a biggest team as possible. And then I think we need to go back and consult with the membership to the biggest extent that we can do to figure out what it is that they need from us and pose some issues and consult with our members. And going back to this issue of transparency, instead of just dictating, this is what you need and this is what we're going to give you, let's hear from the membership and let's get a communication out there that says, here's what's happened. Here's our response to the allegations that were made. I think that's important. And then we say, here's what we're working with, and here's some things that we can do, and have kind of a town hall where we pull everyone together and say, if that's virtually, I mean, this is really tough right now, this consultation piece, because we can't gather. We can't have large meetings. We don't have the technological capability to do large call-in Zooms where everyone can participate, and that's kind of unfeasible. So we have to get creative here and figure out how we can engage our membership have a town hall without having a town hall, because we need to communicate. We need to show them who we are and that we're for them, and we need to make it clear about what happened and get some people to get vocal. I think looking downwards, I mean, we have to plan for what we have right now, but I also don't think that we roll over and die based on what was said about us at City Council, and the lack of respect that was given to us by our council members, or the allegations that were made, was like absolutely ridiculous. And I think that if they've made that decision, they can make another decision, and that might come if we get our members helping us to make a louder voice than the voice that maybe that was in a bunch of years and decisions that the councilors were made for. So there's a lot of moving pieces there, and I've rambled a little bit, but I think, like you said, we have to, I don't want to roll over and die based on what was already done. And I think if they've made a decision before, they can make another decision, and there's still 6 months left in this year. So that would be 2 cents of it. And if it's the going, and
And
gone, but if city council now has to walk back what they've done and fund us from another way, then I don't think that's impossible. But I think, yeah.
Sorry, before I go to Jeanette, I mean, you talked about engaging our clients. 2 questions that come to mind when you say that, Michael. Who are our clients? And I always ask Amanda this. I go, how many people are members that we have to engage in this BIA, Amanda? What's the number?
So we have our 222 property owners, and then we have our businesses, which is a total combined of 493. And then we do have some property owners who also own a business, but we just say they have both equal our voices. So 493.
So 493 is the number. That's our engagement. That's our catchment and engagement target. And then Michael raises a point. It reminds me, do we have a survey or something? Do we have the survey? Did we send it out? Are we going to send it out? When that seems like a good time to ask the question around what is it you need?
Yeah, so our annual survey started last June, and it's actually almost ready to go out in about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So we were going to measure where we are, and we had a whole COVID piece on there as well. And we were going to bring it to the board at the end of June to review and then approve to go out to the membership.
Okay,
so I think going to Michael's point, and I know we had that survey piece, and that's great, and that's like if someone opens their computer or check their emails and they do the survey. I think I like Michael's idea of where we have a town hall meeting and we engage people vocally, we engage them in the moment, and we hear from them directly. What is it that they need? They get an opportunity to express their concerns with us in person, as opposed to having to fill out a survey, and it takes that time to go through. Let's get all the parties in the room, let's get everyone engaged, let's get everyone involved, let's talk it out, let's have a conversation, see what it is they need, see what is it we can do, and then let's make an informed decision from there of how we're going to move forward.
Thanks, Andrea. I mean, Jeanette, you wanted to get in there. Sorry, Glenn.
Oh, sorry, Jeanette, I just bumped in front of you.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeanette.
All right. Yeah, just to add to what Michael and also just in addition to what he said with regards to communication, I think our delegations today, their major concern is the optics. They mentioned downtown Oshawa. I do see some comments there, and what I noticed is that these people who are in favor of BIA are the ones essentially defending, if I could use the word, defending the BIA's position, and we are silent. I think that's where the frustration is coming from. So in terms of what communication can we do, I think what we can do is address these allegations, these issues. Like, I don't respond to the comments on the public forum on Facebook because I don't want to be perceived as I don't want to be unprofessional representing the Bay in that manner. But I think what we can do is address these allegations on our page, answer them in a professional manner, clear out confusions and things like that. We don't have to engage them in a public forum, but we can sort of send them a press release in answer to that. Those are the major communications that I think they're frustrated on, because they're essentially left to defend the BIA. And we're silent on that part. I think that's what we're getting into. So in terms of communications, that's what we can do, address those things. Right now, we're not doing any events, we're not doing any anything. So we're down to really communication, clearing up the air, reaching out to the members, and developing that relationship with everybody, because those are the only things that we can do right now with the money that we have. We can do events, we can do our lightings. There's nothing we can do anymore for this year. So we can start with just communicating to the members. That way we can focus on that.
Okay, thanks, Jeanette. Glenn, oh, sorry, go ahead, Rick.
I don't want to butt in. I just want to make sure I'm on the speakers list.
Okay, yep, go ahead. Or was
Okay.
it Glenn? Sorry, was it Glenn? I wasn't sure who spoke last time,
It
whether
was
it was
me
Glenn or...
that said Ivano. No, okay, it was me that said Ivano. Glenn, did you want to jump in?
Well, in turn, I mean, I'm not,
Okay.
go ahead.
All right. So I have a slightly different suggestion here and perspective on this. One of the things we heard, I think pretty clearly from Alexis and Kyle, was the need for some connection to the board and some communication from the board and the BIA, so that we're perhaps not some faceless, nameless entity that makes decisions that some may feel that they're not connected to. So my suggestion might be this. I know there are 222 property owners and 493 members. I'm just wondering how feasible it would be if we compare the success rate that we have to people answering the survey, or we compare what the potential involvement rate might be at a town hall, how many people that would be out of that 493, and compare that to taking what the survey question might be and divvying up the number of members per board member. And let's say we each called 30 people over a week, and we contacted them personally. Sometimes they won't get back or there's no connection. But you go through your list, and when you do make a connection, ask them the question, tell them who you are, and take down their responses. And that way we're making personal connection with people. When we could collate the information back, we could certainly put it into categories of who answered what and how. But I think, excuse me, I think there's a bit of a negative optic right now that's been expressed. And I don't think it's through any one group or organization's, if I can use the word, fault. I think it's a combination of things. But excuse me, I'll get my press. My wife can answer that. But I think my point is that we're in this situation, and we need to find a personal way to get ourselves through it and put into a situation where we have a higher public positive optic. So I would like to, gee, that's annoying. That's my, anyway, I would like to get some feedback on that suggestion. And I'll give you one example. When I was at Durham College and I was a professor in the Law and Security Administration program, there were other programs in the province, and we're all vying for a certain segment of the student applicants, and we weren't full. And, you know, if you're not full, there's a concern about, you know, jobs and ability to deliver the program. So to cut this short down, what we decided to do was take the list of applicants who were our first and second choices that come into Durham College, and we wanted to maximize that, so each faculty member committed to calling about 40 students. And we filled the program. And the students said that we were the only college to connect them personally. They felt that they had an immediate bond coming to the college because they got to speak to the faculty member who spoke to them. So I'm just wondering if this might be an exercise in positive public relations, that it might be worth the effort of the board as a whole to deliver a communications program like that. And I'd certainly look for some input from my fellow board members.
I like your idea, Rick. What I would suggest we do, because that's kind of, we're all huddling around communications, and I think we all were thinking of it, and we've got the feedback from some of the members. I almost think we should take that offline and get a group to talk about putting together a communications plan about how to best do that, including the ideas you raise. But I'll also remind us all, I mean, the team, Amanda, Angela, I don't know, the numbers you gave us, Amanda, were like 4,000 responses and communications directed and engaged with the 490 members. I mean, that math alone says we've talked to 10 people at least. You know, we've talked to all of them 10 times during the last number of weeks. There's got to be some data in that as to what our members want. So I'm going to rely on our ED to basically help guide us as to what we've been hearing, in addition to what we just heard from not only Alexis, Margot, and Kyle, but Daryl and Louise and the others that have come in and gave their perspectives as well. So I think we've got some data. We need more. We definitely need a communications plan. I want to get maybe whoever's interested, a small team from the board, to really craft the plan, because part of it is, we heard it, just don't check the box. I think we have to explain a lot of things. And part of it is there's only so much we can tell right now because we're in a process as well with the city. So it's all there. I would suggest we take that as an action item to start a group to work on that one. Sorry, Glenn, you were next, and I want to make that point, or if anyone else wants to chime in on Rick's points, feel free.
Just a couple of brief points. I kind of like Rick's idea there too. One of my comments was going to be basically from here to the end of the year, the way I see it anyways, is we're going to have one staff member that's going to man the phones from Monday to Friday from 8 to 5, but they're not going to have time to do communications, town halls, or anything like that. So the only way to get it done would be if the board members are going to do it. That's my first point. My second point is addressing allegations. And I agree with Jeanette. We shouldn't engage with wild, baseless allegations on social media. I do think we should make a public statement. I think it's too soon to do that right now. I think we should wait until after the city has done their investigation and then make one public statement from the board, whether we do, which would be made up of a press release, which is, and also a statement on our website, on our Facebook page, whatever. But in my opinion, it's too soon to do that right now until after we get the city's results of their investigation.
Okay, thank you. Jeanette, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I actually just wanted to give out an idea in case before I forget it. Councillor Kerr was talking about reaching out to members earlier, and I think it would be good because conducting a town hall meeting could be a lot of work and preparation. I think one of the effective communication avenues that we can do that would guarantee higher engagement to our members and to our stakeholders, that would also offer more of a personal, casual interactions with BIA, is to do a live on our Facebook page wherein we can discuss certain issues. It's easier to connect for our stakeholders. It would be easier for them to connect to us because it's very common to use. They're always on Facebook. So doing a live Q&A or discussion or things like that, just to get them involved, and we can plan what certain topics we'd want to cover at that. And if a member poses a question that is not within what our topic is for the day, we can post it for another schedule for a live video. So just a suggestion on what we can do to effectively communicate to our stakeholders.
Okay, great, thanks. Sue, you've been quiet. Peter, Cindy, Isaac, you guys have sat very patiently there. I want to give you a chance to chime in if you like. Sue, do you want to? You've heard what was said. You want to talk about city issues or coordination that's going on from your perspective?
Trying to unmute there. No, I'm just listening actually to the board. You guys are making a lot of good points. I think that it's interesting you talk about the town halls. I've, as you know, the City of Oshawa has been running town halls, which has been engaging the residents, which has been great. The Durham Region's doing it. There's another board I sit on, and they did a virtual town hall that was incredible, and it was really well run with a moderator. I don't know about the Facebook. I think that it's, oops, sorry, my battery's running low, so it's beeping at me. But I think it is time to engage with the downtown businesses and property owners. I think there's a lot of miscommunication. It's running rampant. I think Alexis's point was well taken, as it's time to get ahead of it and maybe you do run a town hall. There's all sorts of things you can do. I don't really have much more to say than that. I think it's just you need to engage the members, listen to your members.
Okay. Peter, anything to add? Oh, sorry, Glenn, go ahead.
Can I ask Sue a question?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Glenn. Go ahead.
Sue?
Yeah, Glenn. Yes, Glenn?
Just a couple of things. I agree with your point about the town halls and everything. I don't know that we're going to have money to do any of that stuff, but but that's not my question. My question is, what is the, how do I ask this? What is the feeling around City Hall of the whole BIA issue right now? Is it get rid of it? Is it there's issues? Is it what's the general feeling at City Hall in general, or do you not have a pulse on that?
Okay, so
No,
I
I
guess
don't.
obviously I would
Refer
think
that to
that.
Councillor.
Yeah. Sorry, Sue. Go ahead.
I just referred it to you, Councillor.
Okay, I know the voices kind of cut each other out. I didn't want to step on your toes. So I think that probably falls into my court to answer that. And the best way I can answer you is that, yes, I think you heard a range of perceptions when you may have tuned into the special council meeting on June 9th.
Yeah.
What I can tell you is that from a staff perspective, my discussions with the CAO and a couple of members of the corporate leadership team, the CAO believes that this is the strongest board that he's seen in his time working with the BIA. He believes that the BIA has a role and a function, and he basically likes the model. Are there some things that need to be toned and shaped? I believe so. So if you're looking at that from a two-pronged perspective, what does council think? What does staff think? I don't deal with staff in my purview below the commissioner level. I start with the commissioners and go there. So my connection is with the CAO and some of the commissioners, the mayor and councilors. So I think that's what you're looking at right now. My input would be, as I said a little earlier, I think the personal touch is rarely a bad option. And I think some people feel disconnected, and when they do, sometimes they're open to suggestion from, different sides of the issue, let's put it that way. So I think it might be time for an enhanced personal connection between the board and the membership. And I think that's up to the board to do. I don't think that's up to city council to do. It's not up to city staff to do. And I think that's the role of this board at this time, is to reconnect with the membership, listen to the membership, and then make an informed decision, not only on the actual numbers, but on the perception of what to do with those numbers. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Peter, sorry for, I'm glad you've been
No,
patient.
not at all, not at all. Yeah, I'd be I'm always a bit reluctant to jump into this fray in a sense, because I'm not a property owner or a business owner and so on. And I don't want to say anything to get the university in trouble, obviously. So, but I think just the downtown in general, there needs to be more communication that's going on, and that seems pretty evident from what everyone said. Anything we can do to help facilitate that, I'm interested in. I've talked to Amanda already about possibilities maybe of, that we could have more students helping out, because we won't have paid positions. So we might be able to provide more unpaid practicums, internships. So I don't know how far that labor can get you, Amanda, or what we can do there, but we'll certainly try. But I do think that, it's time maybe to be a bit more assertive, and to fight back against some of these allegations. A natural thing that may. Michael's suggestion about actually, coming back more or less to City Hall, and I find that intriguing. I'd like to hear more about that.
Michael, do you want to comment a little bit about that? What were you thinking of?
The general suggestion I have the board. We've kind of been, we submitted a proposal. We got back an answer. They motioned to approve our budget, and they motioned to change our budget. So I think clearly and not being an expert in city procedure, I think we need to go back with a solid proposal to say, here's our budget items, and here's what we need to do to serve the downtown, you know, the ramifications of what your decision was leaves us unable to serve our membership. And then combining that with a strong support from our membership that they want certain things done and certain actionable items taken before the end of 2020, then if we can make a delegation to City Council to maybe get that on the table, I would, through you, Mr. Chair, you know, be interested to hear from the City Council perspective what could possibly be done to bring this back to City Council. Again, not necessarily our budget, because I think that's out the window for this year. The taxes are already going to be sent out. But as far as going back to the to our parent organization, who is City Hall, to say, here's what the membership needs, and we need to clean up downtown, and here's the supports that we're looking for to achieve these specific directives, as indicated by our membership. So if we can't do this in a week's time, we can't do this in 2 weeks' time. It's going to take a lot of effort to get a proposal put together, to hear from our membership and consult with them to figure out what the bare minimum we can do to get by this year is, and if we're at a shortfall in terms of capital in order to achieve that, then taking it to City Hall with that request and bringing it back to them to make them accountable for, not make them accountable, but to say, here's what we need to do to serve our membership. You've taken us back from a number where we thought we made a good plan about what we can do to serve our membership as well as save them some money, but we've rejigged that, and here's the specific numbers, and make a strong delegation, and kind of punt it back to City Council to see what we can do to get some help if we need it, after coming up with a plan of what we want to do to serve our members.
Okay, so I think there's a bit of a response to that. I think what it's important for the board to do is to refocus very firmly on what our exact mandate is. And everything that we do from today forward ought to be clearly seen to focus on that. And the mandate of itself needs to be reaffirmed and recommunicated to the membership. I would hark as to what the membership wants. I would harken back to the survey that the executive director did last year and presented to City Council in terms of what the membership, like a report card, if you recall, and what we're doing well and what we need to work on. Ask the board to cast its mind back to the strategic plan visioning exercise that we did, where we would tie in the mandate of the BIA with the strategic plan that we developed and marry all of that with what the membership said they wanted to have. And that's what we need the help with. Either we help ourselves where we can, and where we need the additional help and support, grant money, funding, whatever, that's what we ask for. And the last point I would make is this fall, City Council and staff will be entering into their 2021 budget deliberation, and the BIA will be obviously an item to be dealt with in the budget, along with a whole lot of other things. So when it comes to that, we need to be prepared, and we need to walk into that budget situation reaffirming what our members have said in the past, presenting what they're now saying because of COVID, because of the levy situation, people looking forward to seeing what it's going to take to move the BIA forward. All of this in conjunction with the Mayor's Economic Recovery Task Force and some of the ideas that they have. How can we work hand in glove with the task force as well? The region can have a hand in this in terms of the website, the tourism website, the downtown website that they're developed. So there are a lot of moving pieces here. What we need to know is what exactly is our piece, and what exactly do our members say currently. So I think those three things, the mandate, the recollection of the survey and the strategic plan, and the coordination of that effort to bring forward to the city this fall with a clear set of either asks or reaffirmation of support. And that, I think, is what we need to get busy on between now and when that opportunity arises in the fall, that first budget submission meeting. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Peter, does that help you out in terms of some of the sort of go back? You get kind of 2 points. One is, after sort of collecting things that justify going to the next component, we go back and see what we can get, whether it's additional funding or whatever. And Rick's point around the planning ahead and again, factoring in membership needs to sort of go back and see if there's a good time through that budgeting process, whether it's 2021 or an ask earlier. Does that help you out, Peter?
Yeah, I think what I get from our guests today and speaking to people in the community in general, they want a BIA that's going to put up a bit of a fight, and that not only has a vision, because I think there's an established vision here, which was a very solid one, but also one that's willing to be active and step out a bit and assert itself. And I think those measures would do that. We sort of take over the narrative again, if you wish.
Yeah, good point. Thanks, Peter. Isaac, you've been really quiet all day today. I can give you a chance here. Do you want to chime in with anything?
No, there's been a lot of great points, and I don't have anything too materially different to add to the conversation, aside from the fact that I do believe, given the fact that we're going to be faced with limited resources, that really, taking more of a grassroots kind of approach to our communications, almost similar to what Councillor Kerr said, which was, for us all to maybe take responsibility for reaching out to, subsection of the members. And I think it's really important for them to hear from, well, I know there's been a significant amount of dialogue with them already, but I think it's important that we definitely try to wait with the just what people are feeling right now, and to try to help use that as we go into the fall and some of those budget meetings. And
great, thanks, Isaac. Cindy, you're the last one I'm sort of going to sort of cover off. I mean, what are your thoughts? Not that I want to make you last, but we haven't heard from you very much other than the beginning. So over to you.
Yeah, no, I think the discussion's been really great. We've raised a ton of key points that I think need to be expanded on. I think some of them are going to require subcommittees or, a lot more intense teasing out. But I think, sometimes I'm listening and I'm like, are we putting the cart before the horse? Like, I feel we should go in camera to discuss the budget and kind of a little more planning as to where our priorities are going to be focused as far as the dollars are going to go. Because I think that's the next step in figuring out our strategy. So I would motion that we move in camera.
So just to recap, I think you're saying, well, again, we looked at the financials. We've got a few bucks to do something. Mm-hmm. And now we're down to, we talked a lot about what is it we have to do, communications, engagement, recapping of maybe what else we need to get more money for or not. There certainly is some requirement for some supervision of students if we go with that, or to get additional funds, at least to commit to the $28K of grant money that we already have. Mm-hmm. We're down to the people strokes of who and how many, I guess, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I think it's time to delve into that discussion a little deeper, because I think we'll be able to have a more fruitful direction and discussion and all of the other topics that'll fall through from once we figure out the budget a little more closely.
Okay, well, you've got the motion on the floor to go in camera. Do we have a seconder?
Can I second?
Okay, we've got a seconder. Michael, you wanted to speak to it? So we've got a motion and a seconder, and now we can have some discussion on it.
I would just move to amend the format of the motion just to be a little bit more compliant in accordance with the city clerk as how this.
Thank you, Michael.
So I would preface by saying we can only discuss very limited topics in camera. It would be very much limited in this case to discussions about the employee. Any broader discussion about the budget needs to be held in the public forum. So the amendment to the motion, that's just a caveat there. The amendment to the motion would be that pursuant to, the wording of the motion would be, that pursuant to subparagraph 239(2)(b) of the Municipal Act, that this meeting be closed to the public for reasons of personal matters about a board employee.
Okay, I think I agree with all of that. Notwithstanding the specific words, I think that's Cindy's motion. Andrea, you're second it still?
Yes.
Okay, and Michael, thanks for the words of advice. Just to, again, corral the dialogue, I think from a budget perspective, we know exactly where we're at. So I don't know that we have to revisit that, but I just want to be clear. We're going to end up with something based on what we see today, and not spending another dime means we don't do anything else, but just keep the doors open and pay some bills. You know, I think all the components of let's go engage and like the activities we were just talking about now require somebody or some process of a person to get going forward on. So notwithstanding that, how much that person is going to cost, which really relates to the numbers we just went over, is a function of what we do with staff. So I think we're good. We don't have to talk about dollars per se, but who and how we deploy them going forward, I think is going to be important. So that would be sort of framing up the in-camera session. Does that make sense for everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So for the in-camera, oh, sorry, we need to take the vote. So Michael,
Yes.
Andrea, you seconded it. So
Yes.
Isaac,
Yes.
Yes.
Cindy, you made the motion. Jeanette,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Rick.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to go in camera. So you guys know the drill. You have to leave this meeting, go to the other link to dial in. So we'll give everybody, maybe we'll give everybody a minute or two if you have to go to the bathroom. I think we've been at it for a couple hours to give everybody a chance to sign in, and then we'll go in camera. We're good?
Well, I was going to say 5 or 10 minutes.
5 or 10 minutes is great. Amanda, what I need you to do is keep this link open because we're going to have to come back out of camera once we're done there and come back through this meeting.
Okay.
Great. Thanks, guys. We'll see you in about 5 or we're going out of in-camera session back into the committee of a whole where no decisions or votes, no votes were made in camera. Rick, did I say that correctly?
I think that will do.
Okay, very good. Rick Kerr, you have a motion to make?
I did. I would like to move the motion created in closed session.
Okay, we have a mover. Do we have a seconder?
Oh, second.
Oh.
Jeanette's a seconder. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, Rick, I take it we take the vote, recorded vote now?
That's correct.
Okay, I'm going to go left to right on my screen. So Isaac, you're first up.
Yes.
Andrea? You have to go off mute, Andrea.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Cindy?
Yes.
Jeanette?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Okay, so carried. We're out of that session. Amanda, do you have any correspondence you have to go over? That's the next agenda item.
No, there will be a package of correspondence for your June board meeting.
Okay. And that's it. We're at the next meeting, which is June 25th, 2020. It's going to be virtual. I take it again, Amanda?
I would believe so, unless you would like otherwise as chair, depending on phase 2 reopening.
Okay. I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Michael, seconder?
I'll second.
Thanks, Isaac. Do I have to go around the table again? Left to right again. Isaac?
Yes.
Andrea?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes.
Glenn?
Yes.
Sue?
Doesn't
Oh,
vote.
yeah, she doesn't vote. I'm so sorry, Sue. I wanted to get you in there, seeing that you've been so patient. Cindy?
Yes.
Jeanette?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Very good. So we're closing the meeting. I want to thank everybody. It's been a long meeting, a good discussion. We got to an end state. Thank you very much. And I really appreciate the time. This is the third meeting, special meeting we've had, and we've got one more board meeting next week. But thank you very much, folks. I really, really appreciate it. Thanks.
Take care, everyone. Good
Thank you.
Hi, guys.
Good night,
Everyone.